So we're down in Dunedin right now. We drove down for the day. We left about 5 a.m. But we're here now just to kind of talk to Liftance about his new Pacific Empire release, Knock.
Yo, what's up? This is Liftance and this is a breakdown of my new track, Knock. I've always I started getting into electronic music in general at maybe 2010. From there, I sort of took an interest in the technical side of the electronic music, like how it was made, and so me and my mate just started dabbling in FL Studio and started to learn just the basics from YouTube tutorials and things like that. And then from there we just made tracks and didn't really release them. After that, I started DJing, and I wanted to DJ this electronic music, but obviously at the time it's the only work available pretty much is commercial and that sort of thing. So I started out doing that, doing my school balls and discos and things like that, and then when I came to uni, started doing my hall functions, and at these hall functions I'd meet people that play in town, and then they'd sort of help me get a leg in town, and then that's where I started DJing regularly in town on Friday, Saturday nights. The whole way through it's just been production's been on the side. Played pretty much everywhere in Dunedin. I've played in Auckland and Wellington. I played at Spring Break a couple of years ago as well. It's so funny, I played a hall function at the uni bar. I had an HP laptop that would shut itself every few days, and I had my new Mark Mix Track Pro, a real small controller. I just rocked up with that, and then my laptop shut down halfway through my set. So it's just so classic. But after that I went to, I met a guy that played in town, and he was like, oh, do you want to come in and sort of learn off me and we can sort something out? And so I was like, yeah, I'm super keen. I was 18. I was really keen to sort of see what the club scene was like, because we don't really have one of those in Nelson. So yeah, I followed him, and he played at a small club in town, and he operated CDJs. He had a pair of, 400s or 900s or something, and he would sort of let me, it was almost like a back-to-back. He'd show me what the go was, and then he'd give me a go for 15 minutes, and then he'd jump back on for an hour. And it was just sort of that gradual exposure to the nightlife scene. I was just originally I rocked up with my mix track and plugged it into a channel in his mixer, but after that I was no, I'll ditch the new Mark, and then started playing on his CDJs, which were actually really hard to mix on. It was actually really fortunate that I met that guy at the hall function, because otherwise I wouldn't have known anyone in the town at circuit, So I'm really thankful to him for getting me a leg in there, I've actually had it from the start. Yeah. I came up with it in high school, and I've kept that name from the actual beginning. So, yeah, not a lot of people know that. They think I've just come up with it in the last few years. But no, I've been Liftance from its inception, from my start of my journey. I've been Liftance. I always try to present myself really well to important people. I feel it's super important to your longevity as an artist, cancel culture and all that. But one thing I think I'd wish I'd done is sort of be more outspoken to people, and try and not be pushy, because that's I know people do that, but just come across as in such a way that people understand who I am and what my direction is. Because I'm quite a reserved person, and if there's someone that I would, potentially make a connection with and mutually benefit both of us, I kind of sometimes don't make the effort to go and pursue it, and so that's sort of maybe a thing I can work on, is just not being afraid of going to talk to promoters about my music and about my history. I just feel it comes across as arrogant if you're talking about yourself in your local town. I don't know. It's people ask about you when you go somewhere. If I went to Christchurch or Auckland or overseas or something, people are oh, who's this guy? Whereas locally, everyone knows who you are. If you continue to talk about yourself, people just get sick of it. I'm an extroverted introvert. I'm happy to yarn to people, but normally if I don't know someone, I won't be the person to go and like talk to them. Like I'm not an extrovert in that way, but once I'm friends with someone, it's all extrovert from there. But I think introvert until that connection is made. Yeah, if I'm trying to because I'm quite introverted, especially like on social media, I don't really post a whole bunch, which kind of sucks because you got to market yourself. But that's always been like a struggle for me. I like posting and pushing things and staying like relevant on social media and trying to gain, traction and following and all of that. I find quite difficult because I just don't want to come across as arrogant and like popping up on everyone's feeds like every day, like, oh, sick of this guy sort of thing, Yeah, but no, I definitely, when I produce, it's always like headphones on, zone out, nobody else in the room sort of thing. If I have like a burst of inspiration and the track's flowing nicely, then I'll just continue working on it, like even if it means it's all night. The downside of that is like when I'm not inspired, I generally leave it for a long time. So it's like big burst, long break, big burst, long break, which is kind of problematic. I'd kind of rather have it like continuously working on music intermittently. Like when I started producing, I had just tons and tons of whips. Like I'd have like 100 project files where they were just ideas or they were like half finished tracks. But now it's done a full 180. Like I've got tracks which I just focus on one at a time. Like Knock, I just had, that was the only thing I pretty much worked on. Like maybe a couple of whips here and there, maybe a few ideas. Like if I get inspiration, I'd start something else, but it would always be coming back to Knock and working on that. I've been super into mid-tempo trap, like for as long as I can remember. Like I really loved what Ian Munro and all that were doing with like, he thinks it's cringe now, but all of his just 100 BPM twerk stuff, like I actually really was into that and drew inspiration from him and like Mr. Carmack and Twerk and all other trap artists like R.L. Grime and Montel and Jawns and Jewels. All of these artists were like quite influential for me, but I really was into that like mid-tempo vibe because it seems a lot faster than normal trap, because when I produce it at like I produce Knock at 208, which is obviously like 104, but it just seems really fast because it's like like it's a lot faster, and you can make use of like the claps on every beat, and I feel like it's quite fast and punchy, and I really wanted to make a track with that sort of vibe. So that's where like the sort of inspiration for Knock came about. I was like, I want to make a track in that mid-tempo range. I started Splice surfing basically. I went on Splice and just looked through a bunch of vocal samples. I was like looking for a good month just for like vocal samples and one shots and loops and all that. And I eventually stumbled across that vocal that you hear in the track. And I think it was I think it was like 130 or 140 BPM originally, and then I sped it all the way up to 208 and then chopped it and put it into the track. Like occasionally I'll sample from like a video or something, but normally now it's Splice. Like it's just so good. Like I really like the packs on Splice, and there's just so much content there. You can just surf for days and find like heaps of wee gems. I always feel like it's not the right sample. Like you'd surf for like ages and then find like a decent kick or something, and you're like, oh, this sounds mean, but you're like, is there another one out there that's better? and then snares and layering and all that. Like I think the track Knock, I had 3 snares layered because I couldn't find one that sounded the way I wanted it to sound. So yeah, I don't know about advice for sample sourcing. Just look through like packs of influential artists that you like, and then go from there. I think that's what I did. Yeah. I think having like a a mental picture of what you want out of it is good, because that helps you take the steps to achieve it. Like, you know, like with the gym, you like envision where you want to be in 6 months, or where you want to be in a year with regard to your physique or your health, and that helps you get up and go to the gym, or get up and make a decent meal. So it's like, it's the same with production. Where do you see yourself? You got to wake up and envision what you think. Like, just envision yourself playing a packed show or something, you know, and like, or playing your music to people that love trap, you know. So I think that's quite helpful.
Yeah.
It's not something I live by, but I think it's something that's helpful to remember when you're feeling demotivated or, you know, uninspired. Be more confident in your music. Like, when I first started, I wasn't really confident in music at all. I still kind of, you know, have moments.
Yeah.
So I think being confident in the music that you think is good, and not really, you know, I think you should also have like a good bunch of friends who are like production inclined, and they know what sounds good and what doesn't, so they can kind of direct you. But aside from that, just, I think, be confident in what you're producing, because, you know, copying someone else is like, yeah, it's easy and it's fun, but if you really want to, I feel like if you really want to make your own brand, you should sort of have to stop thinking what everyone, like, if you got to ignore the haters, and just, you got to continue to push what you think sounds good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think that having a good bunch of friends that can critique your production and give you tips is like a massive thing. Yeah, because otherwise you can just go down a rabbit hole and produce a track that sounds like trash, and with the help of a few friends you could like iron out the muddiness, or iron out you know, different aspects of the track that otherwise, you know, you could make the track messy without the help, you know. So I think help from other like-minded people is a great thing.